In that case, I say hello. Hello to everybody.
By the way, we're also live streaming on YouTube. We tested yesterday. I mean, it wasn't too successful, so today we try new tricks.
In that case, I say hello. Hello to everybody.
By the way, we're also live streaming on YouTube. We tested yesterday. I mean, it wasn't too successful, so today we try new tricks. In that case, I say hello. Hello to everybody. Good. All right. So.
Hello, good to see you, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon.
That's Jeff. For those who doesn't know.
And that's Talia.
Hey Jeff, can you make me co-host? Somehow we have one host, one co-host, and
I'll see what I can do.
and you turned out quite nicely on YouTube, actually. Okay. Sorry, Jeff, I'm just spotlighting you. So to test out the YouTube.
I feel like everyone's watching me.
That's the way it is.
It's tough to be famous.
Okay, good. The YouTube actually works. I'm just spotlighting you. So to test out. You guys can talk. You guys can mute, I think. And I will mute you when we start. Okay. Good. Okay, guys, Venerable Robina is here now. So I will admit her.
Hello, everybody. I'm
Hello, Venerable Robina.
5 minutes late. I'm so sorry.
No worries. We're still trying to settle in.
All right, good.
I have to find you and spotlight you.
It's talking about minutes late. When I was in Munich, I don't know if you Swiss are like the Germans, but in Munich, I lived there for a year. And I remember, are you okay? Can I tell a story?
Yes.
Okay.
Please.
So I was in Munich for a year, the center there, and I remember I was really admired the bus system. I told this person who's living in Munich how marvelous the bus system is, how on time everything is, and she was shocked. And she said, they are not on time. They are at least 2 minutes early or 2 minutes late. So are you Swiss like that? You've been shocked by my 5 minutes late? Okay, I'm joking.
Venerable, we in Switzerland welcome. I have to say we are snowed in today and all the buses and trams are cancelled today in Switzerland.
Oh my God, there you go. So that's showing the point. Okay, wow. Okay, you people, are we ready or not? We've got a couple more minutes to go. Huh?
Venerable Robina, we're ready.
Good.
Wonderful. And Nina will be our omze
Okay.
to offer mandala offering.
Okay. I meant to send you the right tunes, Nina, but that's okay. You sing the tune you have. The thing that seems like anyway. I'll send you the right tunes next time. That's not to make you. That's not to make
I realized that my tune is off.
It's okay.
I would love if you send me the right one. I will learn it for the next time.
There's 3 versions, but I'll send you the simple little one. It's very nice. Anyway, you do your best. You're very brave.
As long as it's simple.
It is. Okay, so everybody, what we're going to do, Nina, on behalf of like some Tibetan meditation, is going to sing a little prayer, which is we use our creative imagination and we imagine all the marvelous things of the world. Literally, this is what you're doing, because we're going to offer something to the Buddha as Tara. We're imagining Tara's right here. We're going to make an offering to request the teachings. It makes it very auspicious. You never go empty-handed when you go to a place, do you? So same here. We offer and we request the teachings. It's a marvelous idea. So use your creative imagination. Think of all the wonderful things. And if you can do the mudra.
I have to apologize, but I'm having trouble sharing my screen. I think I don't have the...
Well, never mind. Just say the words and we can visualize. Imagine lots of marvelous things, all the objects of all the senses that make everyone happy. Offer them to Tara and ask her for the teachings. Okay, you do it.
All right. Sajipaki Dukshin Metok Tramri Rablingji Nidegye Padi Sangye Jingdu Mikte Ulwa Yidroku Namdak Jingla Chöparshok.
Then when we do this mantra, we imagine this, this little Sanskrit, we imagine Buddha happily receives our offering.
Idam Guru Ratna Mangala Kamiyatayami.
Okay. Well, everybody, let's talk about Buddhatara. But first we have to know what Buddha means. Otherwise we're going to be very confused. We see all these green ladies and yellow gentlemen and with many arms and many legs. Initially, from us in the West, we get super confused, We really don't know quite where to put it all. We don't know how to understand it. So we have to even just theoretically understand the background for it. Then we have to decide if we'd like to go with this thinking. Well, first of all, the crucial thing to remember in Buddhism, if there's a single tiny technique, a single word, a single sentence, a single method, any philosophy, any psychology, any metaphysics, any epistemology, any meditation that isn't to help you develop your mind, that isn't to help you, 1, lessen your neuroses, and 2, grow your goodness, then it's a load of rubbish. Chuck it out. This is fundamental, okay? If it's not a technique that doesn't help, if it's not a technique that helps your mind become less neurotic and more virtuous and more wisdom and eventually become a Buddha, it's meaningless. It's superstition. It's nonsense. So that should stop us in our tracks right there. So then we're going to ask the question, well, what in the name of heaven can visualizing a green lady in the sky in front of us, how can that possibly help our mind? I mean, it's a pretty logical question, and you should ask it. Well, if everything in Buddhism is a technique that helps you with your mind, then you have to say it's psychology, basically. I mean, Buddha didn't use that word. It's some fancy Greek word. We love our fancy things in Greek. He doesn't use that. He didn't speak Greek, but Buddha only talks about the mind. Everything in Buddhism, from the most basic level, Hinayana, Mahayana, all the way to Tantrayana, it is all methods to help us lessen delusions and grow goodness. You've got to take this as a given, Otherwise, it's a load of superstitious nonsense. It means complete nonsense. And because we think it's religion, we completely believe it's nonsense. And then we either decide we like the nonsense or we don't want it. But that's superstition in itself. And it's a while for us, even when we think of ordinarily the sutra teachings, and even if we think about the teachings on compassion, and even if we think about the teachings in the sutra approach to the mind, the nuts and bolts of Buddhist psychology, which sounds so down to earth, even then we tend to think, oh, this is religion, you can kind of make up what you want. But that's just intellectual laziness. It's so inappropriate, So the whole thing is then, we have to understand, hang on a second, I'm going to do something. We have to understand then how, like I said, first of all, in what level of all these teachings, in what stages of these teachings does something like meditating on Buddhatara belong? So that means we have to understand this package of Buddhist teachings. The Tibetans are very good at that. They've structured they've taken the essential points from all the vast body of knowledge of Buddhist epistemology, metaphysics, psychology, you name it, and put it in a nice, orderly way. Orderly according, logically, like any body of knowledge, orderly according to the capacity of the student. That's how you learn everything. It's very neat, reasonable, And that surprises us when it comes to spiritual, but that's for sure, absolutely, and especially the Tibetan Buddhist approach. This is the way they've packaged all the practices and teachings. So the practice of Tara, if you've got these different levels, and I like to call them junior school, high school, university, and postgraduate, and it really does fit. I mean, if you're Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who respects the lineage, he's going to talk about the teachings and practices at the very beginning, what I call junior school, which they refer to as the lowest scope. And Lama Zopa would say that the teachings and practices suitable to the disciple of the least capability. That's a big mouthful. Junior school is good enough for me, because it tells us something. So if you've got junior school, high school, university, and postgraduate, Tara belongs in postgraduate. That's a bit surprised, because it seems like a very simple little thing. And the meditation is simple. We can do a little quick version of it before we finish. You can do it in a very simple way. So okay, how does it all fit? Well, first of all, we have to understand that the word Buddha, from the big picture point of view in Buddhism, the word Buddha doesn't refer just to that gentleman who lived in India, with the one behind me, with his little top knot, looking all holy. That's a body of a person whose mind was the Buddha. But the actual word Buddha, I'm going to use Sanskrit words here, not to get complicated. There's a term that you have come across if you read the teachings. It's called the Dharmakaya. Truth body, technically, is what it means. That's just a fancy word referring to the all-knowing, all-compassionate, all-wise, all-pervasive, all-powerful mind that is now a Buddha mind. And Buddha says every mind has that potential. Mind is not physical. It doesn't come from a creator. It's not a function of the brain. It doesn't come from mummy, daddy. It's got this amazing potential. There are more subtle levels of the mind. And Buddha's view of what the mind is radically different. So when that mind is perfected, Buddha, free of all the delusions, full of all the goodness, then that is what the Buddha mind is. And they don't need bodies by that point. This is the Buddha's view, okay? So now, what's driven that person to become a Buddha, and there are thousands of beings who become Buddha and are becoming Buddha every day by following these techniques from the Buddha, this person 2,500 years ago, you know, that what's driven anyone to become a Buddha is, like as Lama Zopa calls it, this unbearable compassion for the suffering of all sentient beings. That's the drive. That's what's driven them. That's going to compel them for life after life to eventually perfect their mind. So they've achieved Buddhahood. But I mean, who can access a non-physical consciousness pervading the universe? Nobody. We're too gross, you know? So what do the Buddhas do? Out of compassion, they manifest in bodies. So there's two levels of bodies, two kinds of bodies. One is called the Dharmakaya, or emanation body. That's example right here behind me, Mr. Shakyamuni Buddha. He's a statue of the gentleman who lived in India 2,500 years ago, who came out of this amazing Indian tradition and then moved in his own direction, and then had his methods of how to accomplish this perfection of the mind. And he laid out his methodology, and it's at different levels, the sutra teachings and the more esoteric, the tantric teachings, which are from the postgraduate level, more advanced level, more sophisticated psychology. It's all psychology. So one form is that one. That's known as the supreme Dharmakaya, the one we can see, the one whose teachings we're studying in this time of our world, in this history. That's Shakyamuni Buddha, the great Shakya, this prince who left his home and then became a Buddha and then taught until he was 80 or something. Then there's another form, and this is in the bodhisattva path, specifically in the tantric path, the most advanced level, the postgraduate level. And that's known as the enjoyment body. It's a more subtle level. So but first, to even take this on as a possibility, we have to posit the possibility that mind that we're discussing in Buddhism, we're not discussing neuroscience. We're not discussing this physical thing that we do have that's called a brain. That's not Buddha's expertise. He doesn't discuss like that. He talks about consciousness, which is not physical. And we've got to take that as our hypothesis here. Otherwise, all this is just note of superstitious fairy tales, you know? So this is so-called enjoyment body. You see, it's from Tantra, and Tantra is necessarily a more sophisticated level of psychology. So basically, you know, if you've got a sort of a family tree, you've got the Dharmakaya, the unmanifest consciousness, then out of that, the body of the two bodies of the Buddha, the one, the Shakyamuni here, the other one is from the bodhisattva path. And because Tantra is a whole different level of psychology, you know, we're discussing this in one of the centers at the moment. It's a whole nother level of psychology. It's a whole level of a person who's finally got rid of delusions, has complete control of body and speech, got rid of delusions, understood emptiness, got bodhicitta. This person is qualified now to speed up their path to Buddhahood by then practicing the really sophisticated level of psychology of Tantra, which is the capacity to utilize all the mind in a most sophisticated way. And as Lama Yeshe says, Tantra's technical. That's another whole level of discussion, okay? So at this level, the manifestation of Buddha mind in this level is not the monk. This represents the first level of practice, the subduing of the body, the speech, and the mind. That's junior school and high school. That's known in the world as the Hinayana Buddhism. It's the first stages of practice. Then you've got the bodhisattva path. And then within the bodhisattva, you've got the tantric path. So that level, Buddha manifests in the more blissful, radiant bodhisattva style. And the main Buddha in Tantra is called Vajrayana. I always say this. I remember when I was in Kopan, I first went there and I was typing all the prayers and things in the publishing room at Kopan, and I kept coming across this person called Dorji Chung in Tibetan, or Vajradhara in Sanskrit. And then I discovered he was the same person. I was so happy, you know. And I asked Lama Yeshe, "Who's Vajradhara, Lama?" And Lama, in his wonderful way, instead of some fancy intellectual answer, he said, "He's the biggest Buddha, dear." And I was so happy. I like the biggest Buddha, you know. So it's the tantric aspect of Shakyamuni Buddha. It's like the Buddha mind gets dressed up in different shapes and sizes to show us that level of practice. This is the first level. Control your body, speech, and mind, baby. Then you're qualified to utilize what's there in this most marvelous, more sophisticated psychology and to manifest in the bodhisattva style. So this Buddha is meant to lift us, to make us happy, to make us joyful. It's a whole nother level of reality. So then Vajradhara, then under him are the 5 Buddha families. Amitabha, Akshobhya, 5 of these. And then each of these Buddhas, and this is where it's coming into Tantra, each of these Buddhas is a manifestation of the purified aspect of a delusion. That's the thing about Tantra. It's more sophisticated. In the first level in junior school, there's no wriggle room. You just control your body, you control your speech, which are the servants of your delusions. There's no killing, no stealing. Don't jump on many partners. Eat as little as you can. Be a nice controlled person. That's the first level of practice. Then you've harnessed your body and speech to some degree. You can go to high school, and now you get into your mind and start looking at the ridiculous attachment that drives it all, and you can begin to harness that. Now you get to the bodhisattva path and you add compassion to the mix. You're really together by now. Your delusions are under control. And then you realize emptiness, and now you're really under control. And now you get to postgraduate, where you can utilize all the junk. So these Buddhas, the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, the 5 families, and under there are all the thousands of other Buddhas, all related to these different energies, So purified, Amitabha is purified attachment. Tara is in that family. Chenrezig is in that family. The more advanced practice of Vajrayana, she's in that family. There's a whole bunch where you purified attachment. Akshobhya family is purified anger. Vajrayana family is purified ignorance. So it's a more marvelous kind of type approach. And as Lama Yeshe, when he first started teaching Westerners in the 70s, 60s, he really could see with us crazy Western hippies, that we understood this concept of how we can transform, as they say in Tantra, poison into medicine. He could see that. Because why? Because the essence of Tantra is there's the ability to utilize all the delusions, especially attachment. Of course, that's esoteric to us in the beginning. So all these Buddhas are so Tara, as an example, are manifestations of qualities, either that you want to purify or that you want to enhance. So, okay, there's thousands of these Buddhas, all kinds, male, female, peaceful, wrathful, some with many legs and many arms. They're really complicated, but literally it is psychology. Literally it is psychology. It can't be any more or less than that. Okay, so who's Tara then? Well, Tara, Drolma in Tibetan, it means liberator. And she's known as the liberator from the fears of samsara. That's the way the Buddhists would talk about all the delusions and the nonsense and the anger and the worries and the fears and the stuff that drags us down. That's what being in samsara means. And the nature of all that junk is fear. So she's a liberator. So then you could say that a Buddha, you could say has 3 essential qualities. One is compassion. The powerful compassion, empathy with the suffering of others, and only the wish to be of benefit to them. But that's not enough. You've got to have the wisdom to know how. That's wisdom. So Chenrezig, Avalokitesvara, compassionate-eyed one, is the manifestation of compassion. A very sweet, peaceful nature, white light body, male form in this case. Then there's wisdom. And he's got orange, he's bodhisattva, all this bodhisattva style with, jewelry and earrings and looking gorgeous, like based on the Indian aristocratic kind of royal style. And they're all young and gorgeous and vibrant and beautiful, meant to make you happy, meant to make your mind happy, lift you up, make you joyful. So wisdom is Manjushri, Manju, gentle voice. And he's holding a sword aloft with a tip of fire to cut through ignorance. So you've got to have compassion, which is the wish to benefit. You've got to have wisdom, which knows how to benefit. But you need a third one, the power to do so. That's Tara. There's traditionally, Vajrapani, a wrathful blue Buddha. He's often the depiction of power, but Tara is also that one. So, so so what she represents, what she's a visual image of, what practicing her will help us accomplish is confidence, courage, action energy, action. Often in the Buddhist images, these images, action is depicted as female, green energy, quick, no nonsense, quick, cut through the obstacles, make things happen. And, can be slightly wrathful as well. No nonsense, no mucking around, cut through the obstacles, fearless, courageous, confidence. I mean, we all badly need that one, That's what Tara represents. Now, this is a language, isn't it? I mean, if you show me one Swiss word in your Swiss German, I will see a bunch of letters. At least I'll recognize the letters, because I same Roman letters as English. But because this is a really powerful point. This is emptiness as well. Because I don't know the meaning of that word, then it's just a bunch of shapes to me, isn't it? Well, Tara, if you don't know the meaning, she's just this cute looking lady with little naked breasts and cute face and earrings. You think, oh, she's nice. but you've got to buy into the meaning of her. And this is the point in this type of iconography. You know, Tibetan artists, it's a really precise language. We think of art in the West as something creative that you can keep coming up with a new idea every 5 minutes, and it's very personal. But in art, so-called art in Buddhism, is a depiction. It's a depiction of your qualities. Everything, these Buddhas are depictions, visual depictions of qualities you're trying to cultivate, love and wisdom, and delusions you are trying to purify. So Vajrayana in the highest tantra, this gorgeous naked red lady, totally divine, with divine breasts, totally gorgeous looking, she's the manifestation of purified attachment energy. So by practicing her, it helps you utilize and transform and get rid of your attachment energy. And you can be a boy or a girl and do that kind of practice. In the end, you develop an affinity with one of these particular Buddhas that becomes your particular one, your yidam, as they call it. So you can be a girl looking very sweet and nice, and you can have Yamantaka as your yidam, this dude with about 1 million arms and legs would scare the life out of you if you met him in a human form. Or you can be some big 6 foot tall dude with muscles, and your main practice can be Tara. So you can't tell. So we've got to find our own one, the ones we like. We need all of them, of course. We need a lot. And there's hundreds of them. So that's who Tara is, okay? Any questions so far before we finish with that final 30 minutes? How many days have we got this class?
No, Robina, we got 4 days, including today.
Oh my God, I just thought we had one, so that's why I'm racing so quickly. Okay, I can relax then. Okay, good. Are there any questions so far? This is basic who Tara is within this framework of what Buddha is, within this framework of the Buddhist view of the mind, and blah, blah, blah. So are there any questions so far?
Please unmute yourself if you have questions, or type in the chat. Yes, I see a few hands. Actually, one is from Alessia.
Alessia, you talk to me, sweetheart.
Thank you, Venerable. And I would like to know, please, you earlier said that these deities are manifestations of qualities we want to purify or enhance.
Yes.
And in the case of Tara, we are talking about action, fearlessness, confidence. Is there also something that Tara would purify, or is it each deity either purifies or enhances?
Well, it would be reasonable, wouldn't it? It would be logical that the practices that cultivate love, it is absolutely logical that when you're cultivating love, love is not coming from an empty space. Love is the opposite of anger and not liking. So it's clearly, obviously, it is the antidote to the opposite. And the other ones are more direct, like so Vajrayana is a marvelous way of capturing. I mean, it's hard to know how this works, but this is because when you do these practices, they're very similar. You visualize them, you imagine them, there's no particular thing where it says now you use attachment, but this is what they're said to represent. So clearly, though, those practices that you not only develop love, but you also purify the attachment. So do you understand, Alessia? It's kind of logical.
Thank you. Yes,
makes sense.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. What else, people?
Okay, Venerable Robina, we have a question in the chat, and then we have Amy.
Yes.
So,
yes. The chat
Regina?
first. Okay. Good, the chat.
Yeah. Yes. I'll read it out.
Yes.
As Tara was born from the tears of Chenrenzi, is she an aspect of Chenrenzi?
Well, I mean, you hear all these lovely stories, and I really honestly can't tell you much about these stories. I'd rather just talk about them in a practical, psychological sense right now, not some kind of history of some lady at one point who came out of the Chenrenzi's eye. I'm not trying to be sarcastic, but I'd rather talk about in a kind of hard edge meaning of the mind and the benefit right now. So I can't possibly tell you about that. But it's logical that all the Buddhas have all the qualities. It's really clear, These are aspects. Clearly, a Buddha has all qualities, but it's as if the same Buddha mind is dressing up as a green lady one day and as an orange man the next day. But all the qualities obviously have to be there. It's so clear. And this is what I really want to try and convey, the psychological meaning, the implication psychologically of these practices. Because if we think of it in any other way, it's just romantic. It's like romance. So anyway, go on. What else?
Yes, and the next question is from Amy. And Amy is
unmute. Yes.
Hello, Venerable.
Hello, darling girl. Happy to help you. What is your question?
I just had one quick question. I missed You had mentioned that there was 2 levels of bodies from the Dharmakaya.
That's
One
right.
is the,
Of the Dharmakaya, emanation body and enjoyment body, or in
Oh.
Sanskrit, Nirmanakaya, Sambhogakaya, enjoyment body.
That's what it was. Okay,
Good.
thank you.
Okay.
That's
Good
it.
job. Okay, good, fantastic. What else, people?
And there's a question from Sarah. The question is how Tara can improve our everyday life.
Okay, if you are visualizing Tara and buying into the meaning that she represents power, confidence, optimism, cutting through the obstacles, action, and by doing that practice, what do you think you're enhancing in yourself? There's the answer, sweetheart. That's the point. It's like, okay, this is a good analogy. It's like if you're trying to play tennis, Sarah, and you've got a statue of Roger Federer, all right, or a picture of Roger Federer, and then you look at that picture and you look at that statue and you check how he's holding his racket, or you watch him in a video, and you're asking me, how does watching a video of Roger Federer help me play tennis? Well, it's sort of obvious, isn't it? It's the same with this. If you buy into what Roger Federer, if you don't know the meaning of tennis and you see this funny fellow with a weird thing in his hand and a funny ball going back and forth, you don't have any way to conceptualize the meaning. So it won't help you at all. But if you buy into the meaning of tennis, then every second you watch Federer, how else do you think it will help you? It'll help you to play tennis. So if you buy into the meaning of Tara as being this quality, of action, courage, confidence, self-confidence. Every time you think of her, you see her in your visualization, you absorb her into you, you say her mantra, and it's evident how it's helping in your daily life. It's logical. It makes sense. And I'd like you to answer that if you think it's not making sense. But if it is making sense, tell me it makes sense. Meanwhile,
Sarah
it makes sense. He says it. Well done, Sarah. Come on, who else? This is why it's so important to think of Tara not as coming out of the tier of Chen raising. It sounds very lovely, or that she was some princess way back whenever, or whatever. That's fine, but I'd rather talk about it like this, because then it becomes real, becomes on the earth, real psychology. Sarah's question is a perfect question. What else?
There's nothing in the chat box at the
Okay,
moment.
good. All right. So the other thing is very interesting. This is something. This is the whole discussion of. Maybe that we'll wait for that. We'll wait for that later. That's okay. Okay. So then, really, what else to talk about except? I mean, there's so much you can talk about her. There's a long teaching of Lama Zopa's. I think it's I sent you those course notes. I can't talk like that. I don't know all that stuff. We can read it. You can read Lama Zopa's teachings. It's marvelous. But I'd have to read them myself, because I can't think of all those things. Lama Zopa talks about it in a way because he's got the mind that sees this reality. He's a highly evolved being. I'm just this, I'm not. I just have to try and talk about it in a practical way. So also there's her mantra. These mantras are Sanskrit. Tibetans never translated them. I mean, you can translate, but they left them in Sanskrit because they talk a lot about how the power of Sanskrit sounds. And there's something very interesting here too. This is from the Vajrayana, from the Tantrayana way approach to life. And we understand this is helping us. So if you look at the Vajrayana model of the mind and the way the universe exists according to the Vajrayana, they talk in terms of all physical matter. And this is the basis of Tibetan medical system. But all physical matter in the universe is simply made of the 4 elements. Of course, this is clearly how we used to think a few centuries ago in the European culture. But it's certainly the same as the Chinese model, similar to the Ayurvedic, absolutely the Tibetan medical system, therefore the Tibetan Buddhist. That's still the model they use, the seemingly very old-fashioned idea of earth, air, fire, and water. It sounds very silly to us now because we have all these billions of atoms and different ones in science, don't we? But this is the way they talk still. So the whole universe is made of the 4 elements. And so our body is the 4 elements, basically. It's a particular manifestation, a particular configuration of the 4 elements. Well, so is an ant. So is a dog, so is a spirit, maybe predominantly air energy, All physical matter is a combination, a configuration of the 4 elements. So all 4 elements, and in Buddhist philosophy, you study this in great depth, all 4 elements have the components of the other 3. So the fire element, or I forget all the things, but the component of water helps the something or other of the fire. And I forget all the details now because I forget it, So that our body is made of the 4 elements. But we've got, in Vajrayana, we've got gross body, subtle body, and extremely subtle body. And then we have gross mind, inextricably linked to the gross body. And that's the sensory consciousness. Pretty evident, isn't it? You can't extricate eye consciousness, which is not physical, from the eyeball and the bits and pieces that function. So this is the sensory consciousness. That's the grossest level of our conscious being, inextricably linked to the gross bag of bones. So when we die, by the time you stop breathing, that's finished. All the senses have gone. The physical 4 elements have ceased. You've stopped breathing. And of course, in our culture, you're ready for the body bag, but you're not dead yet for this view. Your subtle mind is still there. And this is equivalent to when you go to sleep. The 4 elements gradually absorb, and you tap a person and they won't feel it because their gross consciousness, this is the Buddhist view, has all gone into the central channel. So, okay, we've got this subtle consciousness and it's inextricably linked with its own subtle level of physicality. And this is helping us now understand Tara, the different levels of physicality. So this physical body, the subtle physical body, is made up of this subtle nervous system, 72,000 subtle channels, a subtle nervous system throughout our entire body. And coursing through those channels are these subtle wind energy or prana. This is the basis of Tibetan medical system of health. They study it for 12, 15 years, all the different winds and all those channels full of all these different winds, our different mental consciousnesses, all our mental states are inextricably linked to those winds in those channels. So the Tibetan doctors can feel your pulses, and she'll feel the wind energies, and she will know the particular imbalance that she's feeling. Your mind, the winds are berserk, and that's because it's the winds linked to your attachment energy, and that's how you're having panic attacks and worries and fears. Or she might feel the other winds, and why you got so much energy of anger and raging and out of control, because she can feel the imbalance of those winds, because the winds and the mind are inextricably linked. I mean, clearly, this is not modern neuroscience talking. This is the Tibetan, the Vajrayana model of the mind, which has been around for thousands of years and as expressed through the Tibetan medical system, the Tibetan system, okay? So this is I'm getting to another point. So they say in Tantra that the wind, purest wind, is mantra. Wind is sound. For a start, wind, we would only have speech, wind coming out the mouth, and then words come out. If you're in a vacuum, there's no sound. You couldn't possibly be. So wind is sound. But look at our garbage sounds right now. Angry sounds and lying sounds and ridiculous sounds and vomiting out the rubbish sounds, bad-mouthing politicians behind our back sounds, the garbage that comes out of our mouth. What do you, and this is the point, what do you think we're doing to our wind energies, which is our health? This is literal. Even having, Lama Zopa says, even having a negative thought pollutes the wind energies connected to that thought. And then eventually, this is how karma works. Eventually, even that anger continues to grow in your mind as a habit. It continues to pollute your wind energies. And then as that gets heavier and heavier, and eventually next life, it creates the cause for you to have a sick body, because your wind energies then will, you bring them with you. And then you get a body that you created. A crummy old body, like a lion's body, or a mean, ugly person who's always angry and sick. You create that with your mind and even then your speech. And then even further, Lama Zopa says, that impacts upon the external elements, which is what environmental karma is. So how come you live in a place where, everything's filthy and dirty? Or you live in Zurich, even if people, Zurich just looks clean. People's houses just look neat. It's the karma you guys have. You've got environmental karma of no sexual misconduct, because Zurich is really clean and nice and not yucky and not sort of smelly and polluted. Or it's also the karmic result of no killing, when the delicious food and the air and the water don't harm you. This is all created by sentient beings, and this is based upon this Vajrayana model. So wind is sound. Well, in Vajrayana, the purest sound is Sanskrit. That's what they say. The purest sound is Sanskrit. So just saying the mantra of Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Svaha, that sound. Okay, this is esoteric. This is subtle. It's all there for us to learn. But the sound Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Svaha, which is the sound manifestation of the same qualities that she represents, You know, you purify your mind and you cultivate that aspect of yourself, because that's the meaning of Om Tari Tutari Turi Swaha. Of course, it's esoteric. Of course, it's more subtle. It's a language we're not familiar with. I mean, this visual language as well. But this is the logic of it, you know. So so even that's why if you feel miserable one day and you just say Tara's mantra, you purify your mind right there. You purify your body right there, and you subdue your mind as well. And you connect with Tara, and you develop the habit of those qualities. All of this is based on the logic of karma, which is that every millisecond of what you think and do and say, none of it goes astray. Every millisecond, it implants tendencies in your mind. It sows seeds in your mind. You program your mind. That's how I find that very helpful to understand. Any questions from that?
Yes, Wendy, the question.
Yes,
Wendy, please go ahead.
Yes, darling.
Robina,
Yes.
so you say that the body has the gross, the subtle, and then the
I missed you, Wendy. Start again. I missed you, Wendy. Start again, darling.
Can you hear me? Can you
Yes,
hear
I
me
can
now?
now. Yes, I can.
You said that the body has the gross, the subtle, and the
And extremely subtle. That's right.
and then the mind has the gross, which is the sensory consciousness.
Mhm. The subtle is the mental states. We're experiencing those now at the gross level, but they're a subtler level of consciousness, the mental states. Yes. And then?
Which is the sleep. And then what is there?
Extreme. By the time you die, it's this gradual process, or sleep is the same, gradual process of deconstruction from the gross to the subtle. So as you keep going through the 5th and 6th and 7th and finally to the 8th stage of what's death, even the subtler medical cease, the subtler wind cease, gets ever more subtle, ever more subtle, ever more subtle, till you get to the extremely subtle wind and extremely subtle mind, which are inextricably linked. That's known as the clear light mind, and it's inextricably linked to that subtle wind. And it also happens to be the repository of all the karmic seeds that Wendy has created in this life and since the beginning of this time. And when that consciousness with that mind, with that wind energy leaves the body, programmed, you'll go zapping to your new mummy, and off you'll go carrying out the works that the seed you just planted. Okay.
Thank you.
Good, sweetie pie. Okay, what else, folks? We should just do the meditation, maybe. Any more questions?
9 in the chat box.
Okay. Well, we could do a nice leisurely 20-minute meditation. Okay. When we reach enlightenment. Good. Anna's question. What is it?
Anna, would you like to unmute yourself, or should I read it out for you? Okay, I will just read it out and then she can continue if she has more questions. When we reach enlightenment, do we lose our wind energy?
No, it's beginningless and endless. Because the mind, this is just the Vajrayana view of the universe, okay? The universe, the entire universe consists of matter, which is the 4 elements, and mind. And because both of these, and secondly, in the Vajrayana, this wind and this very subtle wind and very subtle mind, they're like one entity. You can't separate them. They're inextricably linked. It's just the way the universe is. So the 4 elements out there are simply gross expressions of the 4 elements in here. They're the same 4 elements basically. So the entire universe is made of these 4 elements, and minds are occupying these universes that are created by our karma. And so these are beginningless and endless. So they're inextricably linked, Anna. They can never not. It's just the fundamental building blocks of the universe. The fundamental building blocks of persons. That's it. That's the Vajrayana model. And it's beginningless and endless. And so now let's continue from that point. This is where Tara fits in. So there's a Buddha, Anna's become Buddha, let's say, and her mind pervades the universe, because how can something not physical be confined by space or time or matter? Eventually, it cannot. Right now, our mind stuck in this bag of bones at a gross level of sensory and conceptuality. We don't remember 99% even of today, because our minds are so gross and so limited in their capacity for cognition. But mind in its nature is not physical. So as we progress spiritually, lessening our delusions, expanding our mind, getting shamatha, our mind, as we eventually become Buddha, our consciousness is now completely freed up, if you like. And it can only be existing wherever there is existence. It can't not be wherever there is existence. It's just the nature of it. It's a bit like the Christians say God is everywhere. It's a bit similar. And also, interestingly, there's only one Dharmakaya. When Anna becomes Buddha and Talia becomes Buddha and Nancy becomes Buddha and I become Buddha, we don't bump into each other in the sky. We are the one Buddha mind. But there are trillions of manifestations of that mind, the bodies of the Buddha. And so the two, like I said. So there's actually two kinds of what I said was Nirmanakaya, the emanation body. This is known as the supreme Nirmanakaya, which is the historical Buddha of our time. The next one will be Maitreya. Then there's another type of Nirmanakaya, which is the capacity of a Buddha mind to manifest in whatever form, body, shape they like throughout the universe, simultaneously in all the realms of existence, as long as time exists, as long as suffering exists, solely for the sake of sentient beings. So that's the Nirmanakaya, but you mightn't see it. You might just see a rat. That could be the Buddha manifesting as a rat. This all fits logically when you study the teachings. It sounds like science fiction if you don't understand the teachings, because this is clearly not based on neuroscience, I say. This is not based on the materialist philosophical view of the world. So then the Sambhogakaya, this one that Tara is a manifestation of, this subtle light body, this is necessarily not visible to ordinary people. We can see the Nirmanakaya, we can see this one, this person, this Indian gentleman, if we were living then. We might see the rat, although we don't recognize it. But the Sambhogakaya is a more subtle, it's the subtle mind, the mind that's, so okay, in ordinary life, the subtle mind that we experience at death, after, you know, when you've stopped breathing, your mind is still there. And this is all explained in great detail in the text, and especially Lama Zopa Rinpoche's book, How to Face Death Without Fear, which I highly recommend you get because it's just a brilliant handbook. It explains this death process really clearly at death. So there's some, but you know, when you go to sleep every time, the sleep process is the same as the death process. It's just obviously death is more dramatic, you know. And when you dream, that's your subtle mind. That's literally subtle consciousness. You're fast asleep, you know, but you have all these experiences. And even sometimes when you're dreaming, you can even hear things and see things. You can be having this experience of floating above your body and seeing things happen, or able to travel places. That's your subtle mind. It's capable of that. So when you are a Buddha, the subtle form you manifest in is these glorious, beautiful, light-bodied deities, as they call them. You know, all these billions of kinds. And all of these particular Buddhas also, they have their own environment. They have their own environment. They don't just float in the sky. They manifest, their mind manifests this radiant, what they call a pure land. You know, when you see those round pictures, those mandalas, that's just an architectural drawing of the mandala of the house, of the abode of all the Buddhas. And every one of these Buddhas has their own abode that through their own powerful mind have manifested, and it's all made of light, and you can't see it. You don't get an airplane to go there. But when your mind is pure, you can experience those places. They're created by the mind, you know. So all these Buddhas have their own pure land, their own environment, radiant. It's the manifestation of wisdom and bliss and virtue. You see, when we understand karma, everything we experience, as Lama Zopa puts it, is our own karmic appearance. Everything is our own karmic appearance. Whatever appears to you, whatever you meet, whatever you hear, whatever you see, how things appear to you, ugly, beautiful, whatever happens to you, that's very personal. You created the cause to see and hear and taste and touch and smell that. Whereas with no view of karma and no view of emptiness, we think it's all out there from its own side, and I'm this innocent victim of this horrible person, or I'm this innocent victim of this delicious cake. What can I do but eat the cake? It's the cake's fault. We feel no relationship to what's out there. When we understand karma, and even more when we understand emptiness, this helps us understand that everything is our karmic appearance, the world we live in. It's the manifestation of our past actions. So then with that level, that understanding, you can understand how a pure mind can manifest a pure environment. That's the Buddhas, all these Sambhogakayas. Yeah, so I think we can do the meditation. We've got 15 minutes. We'll do a little meditation. Let's do a really simple, I mean, I do this quite often in different times and with different Buddhas, and it's essentially the same. There's a very simple principle. I'll just explain the principle first. Basically, what we're doing first, okay, a bit more, sorry, explaining. In these types of practices, they call them bringing the end result into the present. This often they talk about a causal path and a resultant path. So the first level is you've got to pull out all the weeds and control your body and control your speech, and gradually you become a nice person. This other way is you imagine your own perfection right there. It's like total positive psychology. You're visualizing Tara, and she's a mirror image of what you want to become. And you're trying, so that's the result of your hard work, and you bring it into the present by imagining. So first of all, you visualize Tara outside you. We'll do this little purification meditation of the 3 different chakras, and then you visualize Tara coming into you, and then you visualize I am Tara. This is the essence of all the tantric practices, whether they're just 1 page or 100, really complicated or really simple sadhana. That's the essence of it. It's training our mind to purify and then to imagine we become Tara. And when you have an empowerment, you're able to actually visualize yourself as Tara, you know. So this is a very quick method for becoming the Buddha. Tantra, that's what it's said to be. So in other words, it's psychology. But of course, you've got to bind to the meaning of Tara. Like I said, you know, if you don't know the meaning of that guy playing tennis, it's just a silly bunch of actions, isn't it? It's a silly bloke with a ball and running around the court looking, getting hot. But you know, if you interpret it as tennis, then it's meaningful to you. So we've got to interpret Tara in this way. If you want to, you don't have to. Otherwise, what's the point of becoming a green lady? It's just plain stupid. You've got to understand what she represents. That's the whole point, you know. Okay, so let's just do it in a very comfortable, easygoing way. So first of all, your body is good to be in a good position, conducive position for meditation. You know, so there's about 7 or 8 points, and I'll go through them. It's very helpful to know these. And this is coming from the great yogis over the centuries. So the first one is best to be in full lotus position. His Holiness says if you can even just start your session in full lotus, which is the ideal position when you're a more advanced meditator, because all the subtler physical energies are nicely aligned. But just for this 15 minutes, it won't matter so much, you know, but it's auspicious to start if you can. If you can't do it, then you sit in ordinary cross-legged. If you can't do that, sit in a chair. So, you know, I'm in a chair. But if we're in a chair, don't slump into the back. That's really important. Because if you have your eyes closed, you just go to sleep. It's useless. So keep upright. Have your feet on the ground, firmly planted on the ground. So then, that's your back. Now then your back, okay? And the back should be upright. But as soon as we put our body upright, we get tense. So relax your muscles, but upright. Keep them upright, but relax the muscles. But your abdomen, they don't mention this in the text, but it's really important. We always squeeze our abdomen because we don't like looking fat, you know. So flop your muscles. Keep your body upright, but flop your muscles. That's a really good combination. Upright, but flopped muscles. Your hands in the meditation mudra or gesture, if you like, in the lap like this. Left underneath, right on top, thumbs touching in your lap. Otherwise, just relax your hands on your lap as you wish. Then your head is the most important, or not all important, but your head is important. Chin tucked in a little bit. Slightly tilted forward, your head. Chin tucked in. Otherwise, if you had your head thrust back, you get agitated. Slightly forward. Your chin relaxed, your jaw relaxed. Lips apart, actually, slightly apart. And then the tip of the tongue behind the top teeth. And all the yogis over the centuries who meditate for hours on end, they've found that this stops you from dribbling. It's so practical. And also from having to swallow the spit all the time. Tip of the tongue behind the top teeth. And then finally your eyes, looking down, as if you're looking along your nose towards your ground. Probably because we get distracted. Have your eyes lightly closed. All the great yogis keep them open because they've got concentration. They don't get their senses have ceased, so they don't get distracted. Okay, so settle into this position now, but forget about your body because your body doesn't meditate. Your mind does. So it's very easy. We've got like 10 minutes, 12 minutes, something, whatever, 8 minutes. We'll just do very brief so you get the idea. So we just do our best to the best of our ability, we visualize right at eye level, Tara in front of us. And if we have a spiritual teacher, and we'll talk about this later, if we have a spiritual teacher, a person we relate to, a person we like, even if it's just His Holiness, you haven't met him, but you think he's a valid person, he's a valid teacher, or if you have a person you do relate to as your teacher, you visualize it's their mind manifesting as Tara. Your guru, your lama, your spiritual teacher, and Tara, same thing. Visualize this, imagine this. And she's sitting there talking, totally gorgeous, radiant green light body, sitting on a multicolored lotus, her left leg drawn in like in meditation, but her right leg's resting on another little multicolored lotus. And she's sort of, her right leg is kind of up a little bit. And it's a very relaxed pose, you know, shows she's ready to hop up, to act, to do something, to benefit others. And she's green light body, but in the typical bodhisattva style, the lower part of her body is sort of like rainbow colored silken clothing, you know, on her legs, you can see. And then the upper part of her body, mostly you see that she hasn't got any clothes at all, just these gorgeous breasts, maybe a shawl or like a scarf type thing. You see it in the statues and the pictures. Everything's beautiful. She's radiant and beautiful and vibrant, full of life, gorgeous. Her face radiantly beautiful, just beautiful, full of love and compassion. And I mean, if you can imagine your Lama as Tara, then you visualize she's just full of love for you. She's full of love for you, full of compassion, only wants to help you. That's her job. Her hair, you can see it partially held in a top knot, or imagine behind her back, all the hair down her back. Every strand is crystal clear. Everything's crystal clear, light as a feather. No, it's not substantial like a statue. Partially held in a top knot. And then this tiara, like a five-pointed crown on the front of her head. And every bit of this visualization is like a visual language. Each thing means something. Her right hand is on her right knee and her palm is up in a very open gesture, kind of giving, you know. And her thumb and ring finger are holding the stem of a blue upala flower, lotus flower that blooms at her right ear. Just imagine. And her left hand is at her heart, the fingers pointing up, in the mudra of the 3 jewels or something, and it's holding the thumb and ring finger holding the stem of another blue upala flower blooming at her left ear. And also she's covered, like in the Indian style, this beautiful jewelry, you know, like her throat, her wrists, upper arms, her ears, her feet. Everything's radiant, beautiful, blissful, make us happy, make us joyful, lift us. And she's a mirror image of your potential, you know, your power, your courage, your compassion, your wisdom. How amazing. I'd love to be like this. Think like that. She's showing us what we can become. We might go a bit over the 5. We've got, you know, might be 5 minutes over. Sorry. So, okay. So now you visualize from her brow, she very happily, we'll just do it quickly. She's very happily sends radiant beams of white light from her brow that enter your brow and fill your entire body. And you think it purifies all the sickness and the heaviness and the rubbiness and the rubbish and the kind of the heaviness of this body and the incapability of this body to do anything, the heaviness, the tiredness sometimes. It's like dragging around, you know, 100 kilos of weight. Completely annihilated all this rubbish, plus also annihilated all the karmic seeds of all the harm we've ever done since beginning this time with our bodies, which is the cause of all our suffering, all our physical suffering, cause of dying, cause of sickness, cause of all the nonsense. Purified, full of this blissful white light. Full of it. How marvelous. And then it continues to come, this white light. And this time it fills us with our marvelous potential of even just this body. Can you imagine? Now it is only capable of benefiting others. Whoever sees me, hears me, talks to me, touches me, smells me, tastes me, they can only be benefited. Can you imagine this? The power of the Buddha's body, you know? And then not to mention that, but imagine the potential, which is our potential, to be able to effortlessly manifest our mind in countless bodies, to be of benefit to suffering sentient beings, full of this marvelous potential, this white light. How amazing. So now from her throat, she so compassionately, Guru Tara, sends radiant beams of red light that penetrate our throat and fill us completely, and this time purify the nonsense of all our speech, you know, all the words rabbiting out, the confused speech, not sure what we're saying, and the speculating and the lying and the bad-mouthing and the rabbiting on and the bad-mouthing all the politicians behind our backs. That's our favorite activity. All this nonsense coming out of our mouths. Purified, you know, purified. And not only that, all the imprints of all the rubbish from our mouths since beginning of this time, as humans especially. You know, animals do a bit of harm with their speech, but not much. A big roar, a scary sound, but we clever humans, you know, can make up a million sounds. All the nonsense that's harmed sentient beings and confuses us. Purified, full of this blissful red light. And also purifies, oh yeah, that's all purified. And now imagine this red light filling us with our potential. This is the main gift of the Buddha, the power of speech. Such that any sound we utter, imagine, even our laugh, good morning, whatever we say, will be of benefit to whoever hears it. The insects, the rats, the cockroaches, the ex-husband, the people in the bus. Can you imagine this? Whatever sound you utter, it's the power of speech. And we need this in our daily lives, don't we? We need people to believe our words. We need people to listen to us. We need our words to be strong and clear and useful. We're full of this marvelous potential, this red light. And now from her heart chakra, the center of her chest, Guru Tara sends radiant beams of blue like the sky, that penetrate our heart and fill us completely with this blue light. And what it does is instantaneously eradicate all the nonsense, all the ego grasping, all the fears, all the attachment, jealousy, resentment, low self-esteem, anger, hurt, fear, all this nonsense, which is not at the core of our being, eradicated by this blissful blue light. And then full of what's left. Once the delusions are gone, what's left? Virtue, goodness, wisdom, clarity, compassion, power, confidence, and joy. These are our natural state. Amazing, can you imagine? Full of that. So now you imagine, we'll just cut short the meditation. We can do the second part of it next week. Okay, this is the first part. This is where we become the Buddha. And then next week we can benefit all sentient beings, because that's what a Buddha does. We'll just finish with becoming a Buddha. So now you visualize that the lotus is the Tara is sitting on, just dissolve into her body and into her right leg. And she comes to sit above our crown. Imagine, radiant green light. And then she very happily, Guru Tara very happily, wanting to be oneness with our body, speech, and mind, she dissolves into green light, and then she absorbs through our crown. And then we imagine the energy of the body, speech, and mind of Tara, the energy of the body, speech, and mind of our Guru, and the energy of our body, speech, and mind. They become one. They merge. Union, oneness, as Lama Yeshe says. So for like 1 minute to finish, just bliss out. Imagine you pervade the universe, vast, clear, blissful, joyful, no thoughts. And then relax. That's it. Just a taste. I mean, you can spend an hour doing that. You can do it in 3 minutes, Just there's the principle of all these meditations. The Buddha's out there. You do the purification, absorbs into you, and then you become the Buddha. It's more elaborate, of course, in the practices, but that's what it is. You're training to become Tara, These fully developed qualities, which are our potential. So that'll do. Okay, people? Enough? Nina, Tyler? Yeah?
Thank you, Venerable Robina.
Not venerable, but thank you very much. I'll wait for the next week.
So I'll see you all next week, isn't it?
It's never enough.
Good, darling. Okay, don't worry. So we delight, we think how marvelous, all this 1 little hour, all these thoughts we've had, any seeds that we've planted, may we nourish these seeds so we become this marvelous person. We become our own Tara. That's it. How fantastic. Give us courage, give us optimism, give us confidence. That's the point. Get confidence. This is our nature. This is who we really are. We just have to kind of unpack it, Jangchub, Sem Chok Rinpoche, Ma Ke Panam Ke Guchig, Ke Panyam Pa Me Pa Yang Gong Ne Gong Du, Pelba Shog.